Good morning, everyone. My name is Lars Klumpes. I'm Sales and Marketing Director at NextView, and welcome to our very first live online event. We're going to talk about Einstein for Service today, and for most of you, you're aware that initially we planned this session to be a very hands-on, interactive session at our Design Thinking Center in Amsterdam. But due to the developments of the coronavirus, we've decided to make this a different type of interaction today. So we have had to change the format somewhat, but we hope to make it a very interactive session. Interactive means two-way communication. We're very curious to learn, your opinions, your questions, etc. So if you hover with your mouse over your screen, you should get a button for asking a question. The questions will end up here on my screen, and I will place the questions to the subsequent speakers. Now, I'm really proud to have a great lineup today for you. We have Daniel Saltink, Solution Engineer from Salesforce. We have Paul Belsma, Customer Service Manager at Eating Group. And last but not least, Luc Martens, Einstein Analytics Practice Lead at NextView. As said, if you have any questions, please hover over the screen and ask your questions through the button. And then with no further ado, I'd like to give the word to Daniel.
Thank you very much, Lars. Thanks for the introduction. Welcome today on the live stream. I will tell you something about Einstein for Service and a short introduction. Feel free to ask any questions. As Lars already mentioned, hover over and you will find the button. A forward-looking statement. We're going to show some functionalities that are in pilot or on our roadmap. So please make any purchase decisions on the product that we've got at the moment and not depending on our roadmap or future planned software releases. So the new age of the human-centric service. What we see at the moment is customers expecting a lot. They're expecting a personal connection to the company where they have contact with, to ask a question or to raise anything. And companies are required to scale because they don't have one customer, they've got thousands or million customers, and that's quite hard to do. Because if you look into the figures, that 86% of customers connect their eyes on loyalty. So they're really expecting that you've got all information about them and that you already know if they're calling you or emailing you where this question is about. And on the other side, that the companies got a challenge is that's expectations, because it's quite hard to do that for every customer in every interaction. And that's where we as Salesforce would like to help. And also, we see that there's a lot of technology and a lot of devices that we can use, but that's not really it's still dividing the bridges. So if we see you've got phone numbers, you've got email, you've got letters, you've got app messaging, there's so many channels that a customer can use, and you want to give them the same experience on every interaction. Especially with AI and IoT and smart devices, look like Google Home or Alexa, it's also quite hard to do that. And we as Salesforce see that really as the new age of the human-centric service. It's going to be personal, intelligent, trusted, and inclusive. So how do we do that? Because the Salesforce Customer 360 has been built on a CRM solution. And we want to combine all information, because the information is not only on the Service Cloud, but it's also in the sales, but also on marketing, on commerce. There's so many information to build that Customer 360, and we can do that with our platform. Because this has been built on our platform, we can use of all the functionality that we've got there, like mobile, like voice, like flows, like Builder, and especially on the artificial intelligence layer. To go more on the customer service, because that's the reason we're here today, is to show you how this is working with customer service. Is we want to personalize the complete view for the agent so that they can see everything about the customer that's important to help them. To empower with intelligence, is we want to support the agent to do their work faster and easier. And some of the stuff needs to be automated, because then they can do stuff that they really can use their skills. It needs to be on a trusted way and include everyone. So let's deep dive in Einstein for Service. And again, feel free to ask any questions. There are many impacts on KPIs, and we see that is in the reduce and increase. We want to reduce the call volume and the average handle time. We can do that with AI. The other one is the increase. We want to increase the first contact resolution. A customer don't want to call or email 10 times before they've got a proper solution. The other thing is that the agent productivity needs to go higher. And the other one is the employee and moral retention. And especially the CSAT and NPS for a customer need to go up, because that's important, because that's the reason they come back to you the second time as well. So we're doing that with AI. We see that on 3 pillars. On one side, it's going to be assisting the agents with tools. And we've got Einstein case classification. We will deep dive in that in a few minutes. We've got Einstein article recommendation. It's something that we're not showing today, but that's in pilot. So we suggest articles to an agent. On the predict side, we're using Einstein next best actions. We've got some good examples today. And Einstein reply recommendation. Again, this is in pilot. We're not going to show you that today, but that's more on sending quick answers to a customer based on AI. And then we've got the automate pilot. It's lightning flow for service and Einstein bots. Also, a hot topic at the moment is using bots. And there are several ways to do that, and I will tell you a little bit more on that as well. How is case classification and case routing working? So what we see with case classification is that we've got many fields, or at least several fields that we need for reporting and dashboarding. But the agent needs to fill them in. And sometimes it's quite hard, because if you need to have a case reason and general is in there, the most agents will use general because that's easy, and there's not really a value for that. So what we do with case classification is that we can pre-fill that fields in based on all the historical information that's in the system and can show them to the agent. And if we're pretty sure that's the best value, we can also do that automatically. And then if we can do that automatically, like an example, I'm sending in an email in English, and then we can see the language of the cases being English. So we can use that field then, if it's automatic being published to our Einstein AI stuff, then we can assign that case to somebody that's got the skill English. So we can use it for routing as well. And that will make a lot of effort, because now we sometimes see traffickers and this can be done automatically as well. So that's about a case classification, and we show you some customer examples later on. Then we've got the next best action. A next best action could be a next step in a process, or could be a next offer I want to do to a customer, so it could be commercial as well. Is depending on the information in the case, we pop up a screen. We call that an NBA. So an example, I'm dialing into a customer service department and they see them not opt-in in the marketing emailing. So we can use that information to pop up a screen in the case that if this customer will now sign into an opt-in, we can send them a voucher of 10% discount or something. But also could be a next step in the process. I'm dialing that my internet modem is not working. An NBA could be that we're sending out an engineer to fix the issue on site. So based on rules and information in Salesforce, we use the NBAs. And Luc will show you that in a demo as well. Then we've got Einstein bots. So Einstein bot is quite important. We see a lot of requests from our customers on that. Is a customer has many channels to contact us. And I will click through. Is if we're talking to a bot, then that bot needs to have the same information as that an agent has. So it needs to have the 360 view of the customer. It wants to use need to use the CRM data as well. And the same for knowledge, because you've got knowledge already in your Service Cloud, and the bots need to have access to that as well. And also about automation. So if something is being asked, if something is being confirmed, you want to use automation to do that as well. And integration with third-party systems. It's exactly the same that an agent is using today. So with the bots on our platform, it's been already there because you build it already. And also the handover. If a bot cannot really find the answer, or it's going to be more complex, then we can do a live transfer to the agent. With all the information the bot has been collected, it's been transferred to the screen of the agent as well. So that's quite important. And Also, if you're creating a bot, you want to have that on different channels because there are many channels. You can use it on chat, but also on WhatsApp or on Facebook Messenger. And that's something that's possible with our Salesforce platform. Of course, we've got some customers already running our Einstein solution. So these are some of the examples. So what we see, the most thing what we see is the why, is they want to do automation. Could be from 0 to 50% in 2 years. They want to use omni-channel, and then based on the routing that we use with Einstein routing, you need to be on Salesforce Lightning CRM, so you need to do the upgrade on CRM, and the artificial intelligence part is very important. And how are you doing that then? It's you need to prove of the value, because it's great that we see it now in the presentation today, but how is this impacting you as an organization? Which processes can you automate, or can you use in an NBA? Then also on the product management is, how do you do that internally, and how do you talk with Salesforce and your partner like NextView? And also internally, you can do an innovation workshop to show the agents and other people in the company how you use the solutions to help your customers better. And one thing I would mention as well, we've got at Salesforce, we've got accelerators that you can use on bots or on Einstein to see best practices and talk to Salesforce people or to partners how other customers are doing it. And the best thing is that you can use it on an innovation lab, in a test environment where you do all these kind of innovation things. So this is an example of a customer, what they did in 2018 when they started the case classification pilot. They started in 2018 Q1. They were setting it up, an innovation process, and did an installed it in their sandbox environment. In Q2, they contracted and structured changes because it's impacting your organization. That's something you need to do in the beginning as well. Then in Q3, they did a rollout for use cases for a few agents. They were starting very small with a team of 5 to 10 agents and see how their feedback was and the actual benefits. And then in Q4, it was being live. So we can see that it's quite long. This was also on pilot base, so not all functionalities were already in the product. But it can take some time to do the planning and really launching it to the broader audience. In this example, this customer is sending out new NBAs almost every 2 weeks to optimize their processes. So what we can see is this is an example on the NBA on the left-hand side, is they using this for the opt-in for marketing. Before, it was a lot of clicks that the agent need to do before somebody was opt-in in the marketing emailings. So with the NBA, is using the AI again and all the historical information to show up this NBA, it was only 1 click. So they reduced 40 seconds of time to get somebody opt-in in the emailings. And this is a lot of time, but the agents not spending on clicking, but they can spend it on helping their customers really where they've got the skills. Then if we can see on the Einstein case classification part, is they're using this for the fields. And they started with the model and did the installation. When they turned it on, we already had 85% there was accuracy on the Einstein. And with training the model, they went up to 95%. So this will mean when a case comes in that Einstein is 95% sure that the values he put in are correctly. So you can use them to route the interaction to the correct agents. And this is not only about that the agent don't have to fill in the fields, but also filling in the fields that you want to use for reporting and dashboarding. Because an agent, again, if they see general, they will select general instead of really deep diving into the values. And especially if you've got multi-pick lists with a lot of values in there, we've seen that so many on our customers. So this will help them a lot. And what we see is this was being done within 3 weeks. Here are some more overall benefits and figures from the Einstein solution for this specific customer. So it's not only on time, but it's also on clicks. And really looking into what kind of processes can we put in an NBA, and where can we use case classification as well to trigger that NBAs. And I think that's something that Lucas will show you as well as an example. And again, they saved a lot of time, the agents, and these agents are not being fired. They are being used to really give value to the customers where they good in. So some small starting points, some bullets that I want to keep you in mind is really start small. It's with every Einstein solution, especially with a chatbot. Don't open it for every interaction and every channel. Start small, really think about it. Start with a small group of people if you're using Einstein case classifications or NBA. Use that feedback, do that on pilot and testing, and especially learn from the feedback from the people, because they need to work with it. If they're not happy with it, they will not going to use it, and then the project will fail as well. And change management, very, very important. It needs to be aligned with in the whole company from top level to the bottom. If they're not with the same message, then it will not be a success. So change management is very hard, but it's very, very important as well. Thank you. Feel free to raise any questions. I will hand over to Lars.
Yeah. Thanks, Daniel. And in fact, we do have a couple of questions from the audience. So thanks for that. Much appreciated. That makes it interesting. So the first question that came in is, can the automatic classification also be done based on the actual content of the question?
Yeah, so Einstein case classification is using the real content into the case. So we're using the subject and the description to do the case classification. And we're using the historical. So what's important, you need to have at least 1,000 cases with correct, proper filled-in fields. And that information is then be used in the model that we're using. So yes, we can use the real content for that as well. But again, it's if you have garbage in. So if your cases are not being correct, you will get garbage out as well. So that's important.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that. We have a second question about how fast can you set up an accelerator. I think it is meant to that for an NBA. We're actually going to show that later on, how easy that is. So we'll get back to that question later on. If there are no further questions, then I'd like to move on to the next topic, and that is IDINC. Paul, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Pleasure to have you here. So Paul is Customer Service Manager at IDINC Group. Paul, for the audience who don't know IDINC, I think most people do actually, but can you quickly give a quick overview of what IDINC does exactly?
Yes, of course. So the IDINC Group, IDINC is probably best known for the boxes with complete sets of school books that are being sent to directly to the homes of secondary school students. The name IDINC might not be associated with two other very well-known products of the IDINC Group. Those are Magister and Eduarte, market leaders in student information systems being used by teachers, school administrators, but also the students and their parents. Very familiar name, I think, with a lot of people who have children in secondary schools. And for all of the IDINC products, we use Salesforce now, the Sales Cloud. But for the platform products like the student information systems, Eduarte and Magister, we since last summer are using Service Cloud as well, and we offer our customers the Community Cloud. And our customers that are using the Community Cloud are school administrators, system or application engineers at the schools that are being serviced with support by our support teams. That's briefly
Excellent.
IDINC.
Yeah, absolutely. So you already mentioned IDINC has completed recently a implementation of Sales, Service, and Community Cloud. You are actually already using Einstein for the sales side. You are not yet using it for Einstein for service.
Correct.
Which I think makes you an excellent candidate to be here, because I think we have a lot of people in the audience who are in the same boat. So that's great. Now, I've been told that you've always been very data-driven. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes. So where we came from is that we had for Magister and Eduard, we had two different systems, different sets of data. And now with Salesforce, we have the same tools that we service our customers for Magister and Eduard with. And that allows us to, the data analytics part allows us to have our service agents look at a set of data that shows them what's important for them at that moment. So they're not being distracted by incoming emails or SMS notifications. We've provided them with a dashboard that shows them these are the cases that need your attention. Cases that might be owned by them, but do not require attention at that point, do not appear on that dashboard. They need to empty their dashboard, or at least be familiar with what's on there, and then they can, with ease of mind, know that everything is under control. So that's one of the examples of being data-driven for agents. We do the same for team managers. We show them a different dashboard that shows them not the items that are under control, but the items that require their attention. For example, cases that run out of or are bound to run out of a target for a KPI. Those are appearing on the dashboards, and not the ones that are under control. So, and similarly for our management team, we show them a dashboard that tells them about the quality of service for the entire product or set of products, and not the details. So, and we do that all with a single system with the Salesforce, so we don't have to use Excel sheets or other BI software. It's within the same tool, and where necessary, it's all real time.
Yeah, great. So, so we've seen Daniel's presentation. Let's have a look at a video. A quick recap of what he's shown, and then I'll get back to you to see what appeals to you most in that video, or from the proposal. Yeah.
Salesforce Einstein for Service Cloud puts the power of AI into each service interaction with the world's #1 service platform. Now, support centers of any size can scale and provide better customer service with the help of AI-powered chatbots natively integrated into CRM and digital channels, letting you quickly resolve routine customer requests across chat, SMS messaging, or voice-activated devices.
How can I help you?
Whether it's concerning order status, initiating returns, booking and updating appointments, or gathering additional information before handing off to an agent, so agents can be more productive. You can quickly create and train Einstein bots and easily connect them to existing business processes for more intelligent automation. Then, Einstein Case Classification analyzes incoming cases and predicts case fields, so the right agent can handle specific requests faster, with control over Einstein's predictions, so you can deploy AI with confidence. You can use machine learning to surface the best articles and responses based on previous cases and customer conversations to save agents time, while Einstein recommends next best actions at the right time, like steps to resolve cases, upsell offers, or loyalty rewards for customers. It's easy to build strategies for recommendations using clicks, not code, to ensure every agent has the biggest impact on each customer experience. And Service Analytics measures performance for insights that you can access to take action from anywhere. Visit Trailhead to get started and see how to empower your agents to learn new skills for more complex cases with Einstein for Service Cloud. Blaze your trail with Salesforce.
Yeah, great. So that's sort of a recap of what Daniel has been showing. And actually, we have a question come in from the audience that I'd like to ask. And I'm going to ask it to you first, Daniel. The question is, how can we use Salesforce knowledge for the bots?
It's a very good question. If you're already using our knowledge base, it could be on a community or on your website only for internal agents, it's automatically available for the bot as well. So let's assume I've got a question about a repair on my solar panel or something. The bot has access to the whole database of the knowledge as well. So it's out of the box, it's already there. It's only something that you need to configure.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thanks for the question as well. Then back to what we've just seen, Paul. Out of curiosity, what's the feature that appeals most to you?
Case classification is something that that our teams now do manually. Actually, we ask our customers in the community cloud to already do a little bit of classification, but on occasions, the service engineer has to adjust the classification in order to ensure the right routing to the right team, or to apply the correct KPI target. So these teams that do the classification have more skills than that are necessary to do only classification. They also solve cases. So we would like, where possible, for that to be automated, because this is the part of the job that requires the least amount of skills. So if we can automate that, that will free up time from those service agents to be actually supplying solutions that can only be done by people with their skills. So case classification is the thing that appeals most to me. Maybe in a later stage also the assist with proposed solutions, starting first maybe with just offering that possible solution to the agent in a later stage. And I'm wondering if it's possible to also already suggest a solution or an answer to the customer directly in the community cloud.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that. I don't see any questions for Paul just yet, so feel free again, if you have any questions, hover over your screen and post the questions to us. We'd love to answer them and make this as interactive as possible. Moving on to the next topic, the future of service. Now, we've seen where Salesforce is heading, also some future functionality, which is great. So there's a lot of innovation going on this end at Salesforce. We've heard about IDINC, where they are heading. So I'm wondering, Luc, what's your opinion? Where do you see the future of service going?
Well, I would like to disagree, but actually I agree with Paul and Daniel, of course. I think they make a lot of valid points on where it's heading. But as Nextview, I would like to take a step back first. We see that, like, why are our clients actually going for a Service Cloud implementation? And we roughly see three main reasons that they do that. One is actually to make a switch from order-centric to customer-centric. We see the digitizing their processes or making one platform out of it as a second driver. And I think the third driver is once you're putting so much data into the system, you also want to actually start using that to create more value. So to get the data, the insights out of the system. And those are roughly the three main reasons what we see in service projects. And as Nextview, as I said, we always take a step back first. We approach service, but also sales and marketing with a design thinking mindset. And that means that when we talk about human-centric, that's actually exactly what our design thinking methods are about. It's about the people. So whether that's your customer, or it's your agent on the service desk, or it's a field service agent, you always have to start your project around that person. I think that's a very important switch that we also see in the whole service domain.
Yeah. So I've heard design thinking, and I know that is something that Nextview obviously does a lot. Not everybody may be familiar with design thinking as such. So we have a little video that shows what happens in the design thinking centers of Nextview. Let's roll the tape.
Zijn we met ons hele team naar deze plek gekomen om eigenlijk over onze plannen voor 2020 na te denken. Waarom hebben we dat op deze plek specifiek gedaan? Omdat deze ruimte ons een soort unieke mogelijkheid geeft om open na te denken. De ruimte die dwingt je tot op een andere manier nadenken dan gewoon maar voor een scherm zitten en allemaal naar een presentatie kijken. Deze ruimte is zo interactief dat je iedereen eigenlijk dwingt tot meedoen.
Strategie. Mind blown.
Fun. Energie. Teambuilding.
Goede plannen?
Yes.
Ik vind het wel leuk dat je hier ook al die deuren en dingen hebt, dat je ook rondlopen.
En daardoor denk ik ook zijn meer mensen vrij om te zeggen wat ze denken.
De jellybeans verdelen op waar we het meeste aan wijzen.
Nou, de snoepjes zijn niet echt lekker, dus...
Bezorgers, de groep bezorgers ons misschien niet dit vinden, zien.
Dus dit helpt mij om dat te bereiken en dan meet ik of het...
Precies. Oh, sorry. Welkom in de Zen-hoek voor personal development.
Dat is helemaal kut hoe we dat nu doen. Laten we dat maar zo en zo en zo doen.
Ga dan in die schoenen van die persona treden en ga dan het toneelstukje uit.
Heerlijk. Hartstikke leuk. Ja.
Je kan mensen ook iets aanleren, je kan een organisatie dingen aanleren door het los te koppelen van de organisatie en het heel speels te maken en het heel eigen te houden, heel dicht bij de mensen. Ik denk dat dat wel is gebeurd. En ik heb nog nooit zo open, gepassioneerde mensen gezien.
Ja, Einstein, ik wacht op die bezoek.
Ik hoorde ook net dat ze een nieuwe kant hebben gezien van hun werknemers. En ik denk, als je het hebt over mindset openen en mensen beter leren kennen, dat het wel is gelukt.
Dat heeft zoveel creativiteit losgemaakt in dat team, dat had ik niet aanzien komen.
Yeah. So great. Apologies that it was only in Dutch. Due to the nature of the quick switch to the online version of this, we weren't able to get it subtitled. But I do think that it gives you a good impression, regardless if you've understood what was being said, of the creative nature of what goes on in the design thinking centers. I honestly must say that the clip that we've just shown from Deliveroo wasn't done in the light of a Salesforce implementation, but you do see, what it does to people, and this is where change starts. So I think that's an important aspect. But in the light of a Salesforce implementation, Luc, what kind of things do you typically do with a customer?
Okay, I can explain a bit on that. So you just saw our Amsterdam office. We also have one in Eindhoven at the high-tech campus. And this is where actually all of our implementation projects should start. So ideally with a 2 full-day kickoff, trying to get all the different stakeholders, all the different even external stakeholders in one place to really have a pressure cooker on those requirements. Really to take one step back first, and analyze what is that person, who is it that we're doing that for, and what is the value that we're going to bring with this that should be brought by this project. And I think there are 3 frameworks or tools that we often use. One is a persona, so that's really with the whole team, with customer interviews, you're trying to create a typical customer that could be real. And it helps in 2 ways. So in one way, it helps the project team to always make every decision with that persona in mind. So that really helps all the development that we do. And on the second topic, you can actually use that in your change management. So once you roll out to a bigger audience, to your customer service agents or to your field service agents, using those personas can be very powerful to quickly show the value of what you're trying to do as a project. From that implementation, so that's getting to know who are we doing this for. The second thing is what are they experiencing? So customer journeys, employee journeys are the typical second type of framework we use. We always start with the customer in this case, because that really will show how the interactions between your brand, between your company, between your service department and that end customer should look like, ideally. It helps also with that persona in mind to have certain empathy on the context in which a your customer is there. And the moment you make that translation into an employee journey, you can also see that same context, empathy for your own agent, who's also trying to do a lot of different things at the same time while being on the phone with that customer. The third thing is, let's say, the next level under the customer and employee journeys, and that's called the service blueprint. That's when we really map the processes, the systems, the internal other departments on that employee journey to really give a full overview of what the ideal journey should look like, the ideal blueprint should look like. And that's a key driver for our scoping session. So which features should we develop?
Yeah, great. So we actually have a couple of questions coming in, and one that came in a little while ago already is, did you measure customer satisfaction after an Einstein deployment? Is there any improvement? Now, at IDINC, you haven't deployed it yet, so it's not for you. I think this is more for you to see, talking generally, is that something that you see? Is there an increase in CSAT?
Yeah, good question. So yes, what we see with customers that implement Einstein, we see an increase of the customer satisfaction and NPS, and also on the agent side. So we see that agents really like it, that they're being supported with AI. So it's a win-win. It's not only for the customer side, but also for the agent side.
Okay, cool. Paul, obviously, we've done the implementation for IDINC. What's your experience been like with design thinking?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So design thinking was new for me. So before we started the implementation, I had a very clear view on what the solution should look like. And then with design thinking, we not only invited all the stakeholders within our company, everyone who had to use Salesforce, within the sales and service organization, but we also invited customers of different brands of IDINC. And I think especially the customers made me adjust my personal view of what the solution should look like. Not totally, but they had very sensible contributions, very logical contribution actually, that hadn't crossed my mind. But in the end, were implemented with the solution. So and it was done in a short span of time as well, 2 days within the Amsterdam Design Thinking Center, and it was fun. Yeah,
cool.
That's also important.
It's very important. Absolutely. All right, thank you. So we have a couple more questions. So a question for Paul, actually. So you've spoken about the case classification. Where do you expect where the value is for in the light of service if you're doing this?
Well, particularly for case classification, I already mentioned it a little bit earlier, is we can free up time from service agents and those service agents can spend that time doing things that match their skills because they're well trained, very knowledgeable, and doing a case classification is the most boring part of their job, but it's very necessary. Otherwise, cases end up with the wrong solution team or get the wrong target attached to them, target that is set in the service level agreement with the customer. But also the classification we also use to do data analysis. So we provide metadata with each case to later see what if we do a change in our software, if that has or provide a new service, if that has a beneficial effect on the amount of cases that are being raised. So there I see a big benefit for us, freeing up the time so skills can be used where they're most applicable.
Yeah, cool. So I see another question coming in from the audience, and that's more of a bit of a technical question, so I'll direct that to you, Daniel. The question is, if you have multiple countries active in your org, would you need to set up Einstein for case classification per local language? Or is that just once and...
It's a very good question. I'm not really the 100% technical guy, but the good point is that case classification is not being based on language. In our model, we're using NLP, but not really for the language. So you can use that on Dutch cases, German, every language. Yeah, it's independent of that. The only thing where we're using NLP is more on the bot side and onto the article recommendation and some other Einstein functionality. So for Einstein case classification, it's not depending on language.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Can I actually link into that? Because
Sure.
so something you can start quite easily with is to have like one case classification for all of the countries. The thing that, you know, as in your global template probably is the same in every country, but it does allow that you can segment your predictions. So using that segmentation, you can actually do the segmentation based on country and really have certain country dynamics in that prediction so that the case classification will also be different in each country.
Okay.
Great add-on. Yeah, thanks.
Great. Thank you. So I have one more question from the audience before we move on to the next topic. And that is, how do you see the relation between Einstein, which is very much data focused, and design thinking, which is very human-centric? And I think, Luc, I'd like to ask you that question.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So I think it's sort of two things that come to mind. So one is if you already did your service blueprint or you're doing that kickoff for your initial implementation, that customer journey, that service blueprint, it's a gold mine for use cases that could be very useful for case classification or next best action. So actually having that journey already there in the first time, it'll show you also a roadmap for future development. If you don't have that yet and you already have a Service Cloud environment, I think it's the best place to start also for some of the features. So especially if you look at next best action, that's something that you really want to think about. How does that recommendation fit within the employee journey? Which recommendations are relevant for that customer? And to get to that design thinking toolbox is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I heard you say the next best action. We've already seen a little bit of that, but I believe you have a demo for us to show us how easy it is to set up as well. So that was one of the questions that we had earlier.
Sure.
So let's move to the demo, please.
So I'm not going to set it up completely now, but
okay.
Let's go to my screen and I'll talk you through a bit on what you're looking at.
Yeah. So, and again, for the audience, if you have any questions, please submit them. We'd love to answer as many questions as possible.
Indeed. So let's see. So I actually saw that we're using the same demo environment as the movie just now, so you might recognize a couple of things, but now we have the time to actually stand still at some of these topics. So next best action really starts with a list of recommendations. And the recommendations, those are the topics that you see popping up in the top right corner of the video. So that's where you actually, you can see that's some kind of internal advertisement where you're showing, depending on what the user is looking at, what kind of recommendation you would make for that agent. And these are a couple of examples. You can look at, let's say, like send a technician on site. That's very close to the example that we saw in the presentation, where there's actually a flow behind it to immediately make an action. But you can also think about, data quality. If Einstein recognizes that on the customer information is missing, you can also sort of prompt the agent to ask for that information to actually complete or improve your data quality. So there's a lot of internal, external, process-oriented or sales-oriented use cases for these recommendations. But this is really where you start. The second thing is then you're going to create several strategies. And these strategies are basically the way you're going to determine how which of the recommendations will be shown. And as we know, Salesforce, it looks a lot like the flow builder, where you actually, in this case, you build it from left to right. But once the logic is actually done from right to left, the orange ones are about those recommendations. So you basically start with a long list of recommendations that you want to consider, and then in every step you can sort of create a business rule to determine which ads are not going to be shown and which will be shown. And this way the list gets sort of longer, shorter, based on which kind of logic you create, to in the end come up with an output, and that's, let's say, the one, or at least the top recommendation that according to these business rules. And just like the drag and drop, you can actually include certain you can include certain topics where you can actually also see what kind of recommendations should these be, but also what kind of conditions. And this is where you can base yourself on fields that are, for instance, pre-filled by Einstein Discovery or by Einstein Prediction Builder, so that you can get some extra artificial intelligence power in that flow. And this is just something that an admin should be able to do, or could be able to do, or if you need a bit of extra help, of course, one of our consultants could easily help you with. So let's go to that end user. So for instance, here you see, let's open a case. Yes. So this is an example case. It's a high priority. It's already got classified, I guess. About the account, it's a pretty large account for this company. And here in the top right, you actually see, okay, in this case, send a technician on site. So even though you could first, as an agent, need to analyze what's exactly happening here, we already suggest, well, hey, this is a very important topic. Maybe in the background, a contract is about to expire, and you really want to show that you care about this client, so you give them the maximum service. While, for instance, if you have a different case like this one, so priority is also low, but also the annual revenue is low. It actually offers you a different recommendation. In this case, it sort of tells you to guide this client into the self-service environment. So it's recognized as being something, hey, this could be a self-service topic. We don't want to spend too much time on these smaller topics. So this is something that a customer could easily do himself. And this is how you also guide that and coach that employee or agent to give them the right recommendations.
Looks good. Maybe as
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So
one at a time.
No, you first. Yeah, first.
So I'm wondering if you don't like the suggestion from Einstein and you ignore it, or if you reject it. How does the learning process
So good question.
kick in?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, because I actually wanted to touch upon that. So there are two buttons. So whenever you create a recommendation, there are two options. Basically yes, no, or accept, reject, or interesting, not interesting. That's something you have the power over yourself. So per recommendation, you can decide on what these buttons mean. And these buttons are recorded, what you click on. And that means that in your reporting side, you can create reports to gain insight on when was a recommendation followed, when was a recommendation successful. So that's, let's say, a report type that you can
But
build
you do
yourself.
that manually.
You can do that manually, especially if you combine it with Einstein Analytics. There's, of course, an AI part to it, so discovery it's called. And in that discovery set, you can actually analyze that, see where correlations are, and then feedback loop that back into a field that you then use in that logic that is here. Okay. And so the logic is built manually, but the learning part can actually be with a prediction on the back end.
Okay. Thanks.
And also you can use which agents are using the NBAs, yes or no. Because an NBA could be successfully, but could also be only with agent A instead of with B. So we've got reporting and dashboarding on that as well. And the great stuff is if you're creating NBAs, they're not only for internal as well. You can use them on a community or in your mobile app or on every place. So it's not only for internal as well. So I want to make that addition.
Yep. Fair point.
Great. So we have a question coming in from the audience, that person says, hey, our questions that we get on our service department are so specific it cannot be scripted. So aside from classification, how can Einstein still help? So essentially, how else then upsell, etc., could NBA be used for? Do you have any examples by any chance?
It's a good point. Normally we focus then on the design thinking session to see where we can use this. It's really depending on the business. But yeah, it could be a simple thing as an opt-in on a marketing or something very simple. But that's really something
simple but valuable, right? Because I think that there's a lot of value in there. Companies are constantly trying to get hold of more email addresses to really specifically target you. So being opted out is a problem. If you have a service department who's actively changing that and increasing the marketable base, I think that's valuable.
Agree, and maybe another example then is if, let's assume I'm calling in and I want to be forgotten like GDPR, what you can use then is if you're changing the field that this customer wants to be forgotten, that then the pop-up will come up with an NBA that will kick off a flow and a process to remove all the information out of all these systems. Could be there as well. And what we saw in the builder of the demo of Look is that was really a static and filters that we use. On a roadmap, or it's already in pilot, is that we use AI there as well. So instead of really using static rules, we use, again, the Einstein solution to do that, not static, but based on artificial intelligence. So that will be more flexible.
Cool. Very good. We have another question from the audience. What is the best way to get started with Einstein? And Paul, well, you're about to or exploring at least the potential. Where do you see that? What's your idea there?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, case classification appeals to me most, but also seems like the best way to start. Maybe not with all cases, but with a subset to see how Einstein does classification compared to a skilled person. And then expanding from there with all the cases with classification, and also, well, the viewer question about next best action for complex service environments like ours. We have IDINC has many questions that are unique, but I'm still very curious if a proposed solution can help, because, well, for example, if there's a certain day in a week that we have a lot of questions regarding a topic that is only happen like a service disruption, you can imagine that on that particular day there's a lot of repeated questions that could possibly be picked up by the AI of Einstein. So to leave time for the service engineers to handle the questions that are more specific and unique. And I think that would greatly benefit our customers and service engineers. So yeah, but it would be a next step. So first, classification, subset, then maybe expand that with more cases, and then we need to explore if the artificial intelligence also works for us with our, if there's a business case actually.
Yeah. I think that's a really valid point, right? Always start where the impact is the biggest. Luc, how do you see this?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So start where the impact is biggest, and I think the case classification, it's really about also that agent, because you're really helping with some rather, like you said, boring stuff, or at least let's say the more robotic stuff we sometimes ask our humans to do.
We have to do, and sometimes it's also other departments, like a sales department, asking them to fill something in that is not useful for their job. But they're being asked to fill that field so that we can track what's happening, what's going on. Well, if they don't have to do that anymore, then free to do up the stuff that they could.
That's also for the, I think for the team is always the best benefit. And I also think once you have that classification down, it really empowers it could empower your routing as well, because based on those automatic classifications, you can redirect them to the right queue. And that will also save a lot of, let's say, misguided cases where agents are also troubled with getting a case pushed that they don't know how to handle, or they shouldn't be handling because it should be in a different queue.
Yeah,
so I think that's really
powerful. In the order of things, that's very good that you mentioned that. In the order of things, I would say case classification, and then the next step is also do the routing automatically to see how Einstein handles that, if it improves the wrong routing mistakes.
Yeah. So, and once you get your classifications in order, it'll help your KPIs, of course, as well. Because once you know that that general category that everybody's ticking, or the overig in Dutch,
Or just the top,
that really troubles.
The top value.
You know, it clouds your report and dashboarding. So that would be definitely the next step.
You mentioned KPIs. Paul, so for the customer service department at Idink, what kind of KPIs have you set?
So right away we started with two types of KPIs. We have the KPI for response. So when a question is being raised by a customer, not by phone, but with Community Cloud or simple email, then we apply a response target, and that is in almost all cases 1 business hour. So then the clock starts ticking, and we need to provide them with an initial reply within that hour. So that's the first, and then also for certain types of cases, after the classification is being done, we also have resolution targets. So, and those are quite complex, or at least we have a lot of different types. We have resolution types that differ depending on the type of case, on the priority of the case, but also of the based on the account. So which customer raises this and what is their service level agreement. And in the past, this is something that a service agent needed to consider. Now he just sees it like a ticking clock on the case itself. And also managers, they can see the performance against those KPIs, but also be provided with a notification on the dashboard saying these are the ones that if you still want to meet that target, this is the time to take action. Because the person, who, for example, the agent who is owning this case that is about to expire is not working today. A simple example. So you need to pick this up.
That's great. So we're getting a couple of questions, but I also believe that you still have something to show us on the KPI side of things.
Yeah, if we have time for it.
Let's go. So if we can show the demo, then we'll get to the questions, audience. Don't worry, but just wanted to quickly show something first.
So let's go to my screen. Let's see. So this is Einstein Analytics environment. Once you have the Service Analytics license or the Service Analytics enabled, this is where you can actually generate quite easily a best practice dashboard set for the service domain. And knowing Salesforce, I'm just going to quickly go through it. They have a lot of different templates that are already predetermined based on what all of their customers from Salesforce are already asking. So in pretty much all domains where Salesforce saw a lot of questions coming up from their customer base, you don't want to invent the wheel every time again. Instead of that, we just combined it into one template. And despite one size fits nobody, was actually solved by by adding a wizard to it, and that wizard actually will ask you to give some nuances. So first, it'll check: is your data in order? Did you connect everything? Are you not using stuff too custom, or just not using it at all while so the app won't work? So that looks good. And let's go to custom based, and this is where you can add which features are you using. Not everybody's using knowledge, not everybody's using case types, queues. So this already gives you a first help on what should be in the dashboard. And afterwards, it'll ask a couple of business questions, and this is something we always work together with the client, of course, to determine what is most important. So it's usually about what's the primary field. Some service departments are based on, industries, others about products, and others about queues. So this is really, that'll give the nuance within the app on what it'll show. And actually it has a lot of these questions. I won't go through all of them. Roughly, it takes about 10 minutes for Salesforce to spin the app up. But to save a bit of time, we already have one ready. So we have the overview, and this is what I really like about these templates. They are actually built as an app. So in the previous screen, you quickly saw quite a list of reports and dashboards, but this is built where you actually have links to those dashboards. So this is really the UI in which your agents or your managers can actually go through. And
so you can click through.
Yeah, you can click through. So let's see. I hope it's filled with enough data. It looks like it. So predetermined filters. So these could be filters that are actually based on your wizard questions. If you're not using certain topics as a primary field, you don't want to filter on it. So that's where some extra nuances are, and it'll actually give you a lot of the topics that you're looking for. So the amount of case origin, product families, case reasons. So these are standard. Here you see the overig, the other category. So you can already see that there's a bit of data pollution in there. And this is really built from to service, let's say, 70% of the questions that you as a manager probably have about your service department.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, we can go through some...
Well, for the sake of time, because we're touching upon the hour and I want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Okay.
We still have a couple of questions that I'd love to answer. So the first question that came in a little while ago was, would it be possible to have buttons that not only show recommendations, but directly lead you to the action to be taken? So just sort of in order to save time.
That's actually there.
Yeah.
So clicking on accept or clicking on reject, that will you can put an action behind it, and the moment you click on it, the action is triggered. So that's actually I think the main business case where you can save time also with the use of these recommendations.
Agree. So it could be a visual flow, but also could be a process in the platform as well. But it's out of the box there.
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks for that. Another question is, will data remain in Europe if we start to use Einstein?
Yes.
Easy question.
Our architects, yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's important. So, okay. Thanks very much. And then the last question that has come in so far is, will Einstein be able to classify cases real time or near real time?
It's near real time. When we launched it, it was in batches, and now we're near real time. So normally, if an email comes in, then it's done there before the agent will open it. And what we're going to do, I think everybody heard about the announcement with voice as well, is that we then do it real time. So we use the Einstein Next Best Actions. This is something in the roadmap. It's going to be summer. It's if a voice call has been coming in, we will put that into text, and we use that text to trigger NBAs. So depending on the conversation, we started with, I've got a technical issue with something. Then we show technical NBAs. But let's assume then I'm talking about I want to upgrade my internet connection. Then because I'm changing that, the NBAs will automatically detect that and will change it to cross and upsell. So real time.
Very good. Very good. Hey, I'm looking at the time. Sorry, yeah, Paul?
Yeah, one last question.
Yeah, sure.
The proposed activity or solution, will it also be available on the Community Cloud?
Yes, it will. Yeah.
Okay, great. So on that, let me quickly recap what we've shown today. We've seen the capabilities of Salesforce, the future roadmap where a couple of functionality items are going. We heard about the ambition and the journey of IDINC, which was really interesting. We've learned how NextView tackles these issues together with customers to become really customer focused. Time has flown, to be honest. So this is a new format for us. We actually prepared a lot more questions to tackle, but it's been great. I'd like to thank the audience for their participation. It's been great to see so many people here. Before we go, I'd like to thank also, obviously, the audience. The speaker, the panelists here.
Yeah, thank you.
And specifically Lisa, who prepared the demo for us. If you've seen something that you like, by all means, get in touch. You see our details on the screen. You will get a thank you email later on as well. Salesforce next to you. Feel free to reach out. And also, if you've liked this type of activity or session today, feel free to like our LinkedIn page so we can keep you posted on new events that we're having. Thank you so much for joining. Stay healthy. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Right.